back to some of the photos that emerged after 9/11. And one of them stands out. It's of a female office worker completely covered in what looks like yellowy dust. That office worker was Macy Borders, a.k.a. the Dust Lady, who passed away as a result of cancer on Monday. Cancer, she always said, came as a result of the dust she inhaled from the collapse of the Twin Towers. Let's speak to Christopher Phelps, an American historian, senior lecturer in American Studies at the University of Nottingham. Afternoon to you, Mr. Phelps.
Hello, Tom.
Just describe this image for us, because it became incredibly iconic, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It's the Dust Lady. It was taken in a stairwell as she tried to exit the one of the Twin Towers on the morning of 9/11, and she's almost in white. It's a sort of yellowish photo. That there's gray dust just coating her top to bottom. You can tell she's got sort of a nice New York workplace attire, but it's been just coated in the dust that was generated by the attacks. And she looks a bit bewildered and distressed.
And what more do we know about the life that Macy Borders had after that moment? Because, of course, her face then is beamed around the world and remembered decades later, or at least a decade later.
Well, it's sort of tragic and sad, really, because she had two children. She was 28 years old on the day of the attack, and afterwards she apparently suffered from acute anxiety and stress, almost a kind of post-traumatic stress disorder type of symptoms. It seems like she struggled with alcohol and drug abuse, and then had this cancer that killed her. So she had apparently overcome the substance abuse problems a few years ago, but then was consumed by this battle with cancer.
And did she ever make her complaint about the way in which her cancer was potentially contracted known to anybody? Did she try and pursue it somehow?
Well, she stated as such. They've done medical studies because, of course, there were all the first responders, the firemen, the police, so forth, as well as the various office workers that were there that morning. I mean, in a way, she's typical because it was low-level employees who were the most victimized by 9/11, because in New York, people don't get to work till 10 o'clock often, especially the white-collar workers, and the people who were in the building were often the janitorial staff and so forth. But she, it's a very difficult thing to prove the particular cause of a cancer, and she grew up in Bayonne, New Jersey, which is a very industrial kind of area, and then her substance abuse could also be linked to cancer. So could stress, so it's very hard to tell whether it was the dust ingested, although, all of that particulate matter, they have done enough studies to determine that people who ingested a lot of dust on that day did develop respiratory conditions. But cancer has not been proven in the 9/11 survivors. It could be, though. It could well be.
And I'm afraid, Christopher, we must move from one terribly tragic event to another that we have seen on our television screens today, the shooting and killing of two American journalists in Virginia whilst they were live on the television. Presumably this is going to apply even more pressure on gun lobbies in the US to try and halt the proliferation of firearms.
Yeah, it's just another in a long series of senseless and preventable murders, presumably. I mean, we know so little at this point about who did it and how they obtained their weapons and what weapons were used and so forth. But obviously America has very easy access to what are effectively handheld submachine guns now, and any psychopath can shoot up whatever they choose to shoot up. But this just seems really tragic.
Christopher, many thanks for joining us. Christopher Phelps, American historian, senior lecturer in American Studies at the University of Nottingham. In that incident in Virginia, the governor of Virginia saying that the gunman is believed to be a disgruntled former employee.